You're watching a free sample video from Teacher's Test Prep. For videos like this one covering every area of your exam, visit us today at www.teacherstestprep.com.
Now let's talk about regional geography and focus in a little bit more on the geographic features of the United States. First, let's look at a political map of the United States. You can see that here. On the exam, you may be asked general questions about the locations of states. So you may want to pause this video and just take a look at this map and familiarize yourself with the general locations of which states are located on the West Coast, which are located on the East Coast, which ones are in the middle part of the country, that sort of thing. They usually don't get extremely specific with those kinds of questions, but if you're not familiar with the locations of the various states, it's nice to sort of familiarize yourself with them from this map. A lot of the states that are located along the East Coast were the earliest states, the states that came from the 13 original colonies. States like the Carolinas, Georgia, New York, Virginia, Pennsylvania, Rhode Island, Connecticut, those kinds of states. As we move kind of from east to west, usually those states kind of became part of the Union later. And in other sections we'll talk more about how different states and regions became part of the United States. You'll also notice that 48 of the 50 states are all located kind of adjacent to one another. And we call those the 48 contiguous United States. There are two states which do not touch any other state. So those are non-contiguous states, and those are Alaska and Hawaii, which you see drawn in at the bottom of the map here. Of course, not their actual locations. So just having that basic familiarity with the political geography of the United States will be helpful to you on the exam. They will sometimes ask questions on the test about the important bodies of water located in the United States or surrounding the United States. So the most important ones that you want to be familiar with are the Great Lakes, the Mississippi River, and the Missouri River. And you may be even asked to identify a specific Great Lake. So I'll try to give you a sort of device to help you remember the names of the Great Lakes and generally where they're located. So this map here is a nice illustration of the 5 Great Lakes: Huron, Ontario, Michigan, Erie, and Superior. Remember the acronym HOMES. Like homes that we're to live in. The acronym HOMES gives us the first letter in the name of each of the Great Lakes. So if you get a question that says which of these is not a Great Lake, if any one of them starts with a letter that is not in HOMES, that's not one of the Great Lakes. Now, where is each of them located and how can we kind of remember this? First of all, Lake Superior, which is the largest lake in North America, by the way, both by surface area and by volume, is also the farthest north. So you can think of it as the top lake. So because it's on top, it thinks it's superior. So think about that little mnemonic to help you remember that the one that's on the top, that's Lake Superior. And it's also the biggest one. So it thinks it's superior because of that too. You might want to think of it that way to remember. Then you can think of Lake Huron. And when I think of Huron, I kind of think it sounds like heron, which is a bird. And if you look at the shape of Lake Huron, you can kind of see a pair of wings and a head and a tail. So think of it as sort of roughly shaped like a bird, and that way you can remember that's Lake Huron. Lake Michigan, you can remember, is along the border of Michigan. Michigan is just to the east of Lake Michigan. So think about where Michigan's located, the one that runs all the way north and south along the side of Michigan, that's Lake Michigan. Lake Erie is down towards the south. It's a smaller one. It's near Pennsylvania. Think about Pennsylvania sort of sounds like Transylvania, and that's very Erie. So remember Erie that way. It's next to Pennsylvania. And then lastly, we see Lake Ontario, which borders the Canadian province of Ontario. Ontario is to the north, and the United States is to the south of Lake Ontario. So hopefully those kind of silly mnemonics will actually be kind of helpful to you in remembering where each of these lakes is located, because as I said, you might be given a map like this on the exam and asked to identify one of the particular Great Lakes. Also, you should know the two sort of largest, most important rivers that exist in passing in the North American continent, specifically through the United States. The Mississippi River runs all the way from Minnesota all the way down past New Orleans and empties out into the Gulf of Mexico. The Missouri River is a tributary to the Mississippi River, and the Missouri River is actually the longest river in North America, so it's significant for that reason, and it passes through 10 U.S. states and 2 Canadian provinces, so it's quite a long river. You also want to be able to identify some of the most notable mountain peaks in the North American continent, and more specifically in the United States. Mount McKinley is the tallest mountain in the United States and in North America. Mount McKinley is located in Alaska, which is actually home to 10 of the tallest peaks in North America. Mount Whitney is the tallest mountain in the contiguous United States. It's located in the Sequoia National Forest, so it is part of the contiguous United States, and you can see its location here. Mount Elbert is not the tallest mountain in the contiguous United States, but it is the tallest mountain in the largest mountain range in the United States, which is the Rockies. So it's the tallest mountain peak in the Rockies, which is the largest mountain range in the United States. And Mount Elbert is located in Colorado. And then lastly, Mount Rainier. Mount Rainier is significant because it is a stratovolcano, and it's an active stratovolcano. It's located just outside Seattle, Washington. And because of its proximity to large populated areas, and because it's an active volcano, it's considered one of the most dangerous volcanoes in the world because of the possibility of it erupting. You'll notice that there is a large amount of mountains along the west coast of the United States, and that's where most of the volcanoes occur as well, and where most of the earthquakes occur. The reason for all of those things is because that is a plate boundary. There's a big plate underneath the entire Pacific Ocean, and it bumps against the continental plate the United States is on right along the west coast. And that bumping together causes mountains to build up, and it causes that volcanic activity and seismic activity that we're all pretty familiar with. And this region that surrounds the Pacific Plate, where we see all that volcanic activity and seismic activity, is called the Ring of Fire. The Ring of Fire extends along the west coast of the United States, as well as the east coast of Asia, and even down around the west coast of South America. And you'll notice, if you look at maps that are topographical, there's a lot of mountains around those regions, and there's a lot of volcanoes and earthquakes along those regions as well. So those are some notable mountain peaks and some other information that's useful in understanding the regional geography that we have in the United States.
We hope you found this free Teacher's Test Prep sample video helpful. For more videos like this one covering all the subject matter and strategy you need to pass your exam, visit us today at www.teacherstestprep.com.